Blackbeard just got one step closer to defeating Shanks and closer overall to the One Piece treasure, with everybody focused on Joy Boy's haki recently causing immense damage from the Void Sentry. Many people got distracted from two panels focused on Tej getting notified by Canary and Devon of Caribou wanting to meet him with info, and Blackbeard replying, "If it's whack, I'll kill him." Crazy thing is, the info could help Blackbeard become the king of the world, like his idol Roxy Zebek failed to do so on God Valley. And to understand where I'm going with this, you have to know how Blackbeard's been moving throughout the story, so stick to the end to find out how the ancient weapons will shape the final war. And of course, like the video, turn on notifications, and subscribe to the channel. Blackbeard's debut had him literally fighting Luffy and doubting his 30 million bounty, calling him a liar. The funny thing about this was Teich's bounty was actually 0 at the time, but he had, of course, as much experience as Luffy's role model Shanks. All in all, there's one thing I noticed that people rarely talk about. Teach ignored seeing Shanks' iconic straw hat, or was he playing dumb? We will later see him, of course, give his speech of "a man's dream never dies" to Luffy, in which Luffy starts to think about Shanks, who let the bandits laugh at him early on, of course. And of course, Blackbeard was letting the Pirates of Jaya laugh at him as well. All in all, Oda was foreshadowing the biggest war in One Piece through Teach's debut. Blackbeard would then realize that Luffy's bounty was of course 100 million and go to try to chase him, showing how Blackbeard was on a mission to get Luffy's bounty so he could become a warlord. It just ended up being Luffy's brother Ace, who of course he would defeat with the Yami Yami no Mi, the fruit he killed 4th Division Commander Thatch for, and broke Whitebeard's cardinal rule, which is why Ace tried to get revenge, only to be, of course, even more motivated when Blackbeard asked him to join his crew, and Ace is like, no, in disgust. And also, Blackbeard mentioned how he was going after to try to kill Straw Hat Luffy, Ace's brother. Now, after Blackbeard actually defeated Ace, he became a warlord and went to Impel Down, where he would get Impel Down jailer Shiryu the Rain, who was comparable to Magellan in strength, to join his crew, alongside some of the most dangerous level 6 criminals who fought each other just to get to the chance of joining the future Yonko crew. While all this was happening, he did run into Luffy again, who he told Skypiea existed, right? Question mark. It's the same for the One Piece, as Luffy angrily walked by him, learning that Blackbeard was the one responsible for Ace being of course up for execution. Here we had moments of course, Jinbei calling Blackbeard weird since the Whitebeard days and mysterious, and Crocodile confused on why Blackbeard was throwing his warlord position he did so much to obtain, and of course which Blackbeard told Crocodile it was none of his business. The ironic part of all this is if Blackbeard ends up getting Pluton, it would most certainly anger Crocodile, as Robin lied to him during Alabasta about where Pluton was, and her tongue Luffy is what truly made Blackbeard also have a chance for not only one ancient weapons but 2 ancient weapons. Talk about a twist of fate. Blackbeard would then head to Marineford, where of course he would steal Whitebeard's Devil ability after his crew killed him, making him the only man to have 2 Devil Fruits in the entire history of the world. He would then of course attempt to destroy Marineford, but was stopped by Sengoku and Garp, the legendary Marines, and most importantly Red Hair Shanks. But I will touch upon that a little bit later. Just know this is where Blackbeard truly became a big player in the chase for the One Piece treasure. During the time skip, Blackbeard would make 3 huge moves. Of course, the first being the Rocky Port incident, defeating former Rocks pirate Wang Ji and obtaining Pirate Island Beehive, of course, as his own territory. Coincidentally, the place where, of course, the Rocks pirates were formed, and with his ship being called the Zebra of Sebek, and him being revealed in the SBS to be an historian, it's quite obvious Blackbeard is motivated by a past pirate that faced both Prime Roger and Prime Garp. Yes, and also had of course Prime Whitebeard, Shiki, and Big Mom under him. I'm talking about Rocks. The second huge move would be defeating Marco and the remnants of the Whitebeard pirates, with only the Yami Yami no Mi combined with the Guruguru no Mi. Yeah, nothing big, just a little light. And of course, these Devil Fruit abilities were too dangerous for, of course, Marco and the crew, and we haven't even seen Top Commander Jozu and Vista since the time skip, which is a bad sign. The fight had people actually looking at Blackbeard as a Yonko, and I don't blame them. Marco is a mythical Zoan who knew everything about Blackbeard's body being different, and of course the Devil Fruit belonging to his deceased captain. Yeah, this is the same Marco who fought King and Queen at the same time during Wano. Some even say the strongest commander shown throughout the story thus far, so kudos to Teach for this win. And lastly is when he convinced former Admiral Aokiji to join his crew after he lost to Akainu for the Fleet Admiral position. Mind you, Kuzan has already kidnapped Pudding and defeated Cracker during Whole Cake Island, when, not really Whole Cake Island, but during when he was at Whole Cake Island, and at the same time also defeated Garb, though he had a lot of help and protected Pirate Island Beehive for Teach. So this was a goated move by Blackbeard to have him join so far. Question mark. Since the time skip though, Blackbeard hasn't made any huge moves yet. He sent Burgess, of course, to go and get Ace's Delver ability so he can feel like he had Ace was on his crew. Coincidentally, just shows when he, of course, first talks to Luffy since Impel Down. And then he clashes with the Revolutionary Army at Baltigo. Wonder if they will ever show that, of course, that class, especially with CP0 also being involved. And then, of course, he went to capture Gecko Morio. So I wonder how that plotline will turn out. Right now, these are not really big, huge moves, but they're moves in general. Me personally, the biggest moves Blackbeard made was going to Amazon Lily and fighting the Seraphim, in which he noticed the Lunarian traits, which is, of course, not surprising him being a historian. And then he stops Boa Hancock from stoning everybody, and Silvers really had to show up with Conqueror's Haki leaking from his blade to stop Teach. He ended up kidnapping Kobe as leverage, and of course, Rayleigh even admitted Blackbeard would have beat him in a fight because of his age. And of course, the other move was taking down Law, a 3 billion berry captain who just came off a Big Mom win with the help of Kid. Getting his road poneglyphs, the 3 road poneglyphs, with only, of course, half his crew in attendance against Law, Blackbeard took a shock Willie, and of course, let's be honest here, looked to struggle more than Shanks, but that's kind of his thing, taking more pain. I'm just looking at the results, honestly, and I also thought it was cool how Oda showcased his OG crew members, of course, minus Lafitte, which I'm still interested about that character, all obtaining overpowered Delve abilities since the last time we saw them. But that was really cool. Now, the final thing I want to focus on before I switch topics for a little bit is Blackbeard's crew going to Egghead Island. Yes, Katarina Devon touching Saturn, while Van Augur told Saturn that they're after the world was so badass, especially when Saturn reveals Blackbeard is a special race. Oda continues to hype up Blackbeard, and now with Caribou about to snitch, things are about to get, of course, hectic. So let's actually highlight Caribou and, of course, Shanks as well, and why they're so important to the next steps for Blackbeard and his moves he's about to make in, of course, the final saga. So for those of you who forgot who Caribou was revealed, of course, by the fake Luffy Damaro Black, who is currently cosplaying as Eustace Kid. What a crazy coincidence. And he states Caribou is known as the Marine Killer and has a bounty of 210 million berries. For context, only 5 supernovas had a bounty higher than 200 million pre-time skip. Yes, Eustace Kid, Monkey D. Luffy, Basil Hawkins, X Drake, and Trafalgar Law. So Oda putting up this amount of numbers, hyping up this dude in the first post-time skip chapter, meant he would be a player in the second half of One Piece. We just don't know how far Oda would go to make him a relevant player in the final saga. His actual debut was a little bit later though. It was him messing up a Marine real bad and then asking for forgiveness for of course the Marine trying to kill him, while he gets his fellow supernova little bro to bury him alive. He later even kills the Marine against Straw Hat orders, well, fake Luffy's orders, and called the Marines hypocrites for lying to the bad guys. Yes, this guy has definitely a very deranged way of thinking. One Piece has shown some monsters like Mihawk, of course, having the moniker Marine Hunter before he became a warlord, or how Fujitora had some beef with the warlords, and that's why he wanted to actually abolish the warlord system, or of course Shiki destroying half a Marine fort and standing on a stack of Marine bodies as he taunted Prime Sengoku and Prime Garb. Even currently in the story we have a Yonko Buggy crew placing bounties on Marines, and already have Vice Admiral T-Bone bounty received. All in all, I could see Caribou's place in the final war not only being involved with Blackbeard, Shanks, and Luffy, but also the Marines too. Don't forget the strongest Marine of Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru pre-time skip admirals were all Logias, just like Caribou. So I could definitely see some sort of connection with the Marines and why he hates the Marines so much. Now, of course, Caribou was so insulted by the fake Straw Hat scam that he decided he was going to bury them alive. Here he revealed the original plan to kill every Straw Hat after joining the Alliance, and Oda reveals his Delve fruit, a Logia Numa no Mi, turning himself into mud, which describes his character perfectly as his tactics were very dirty in a sense. Caribou has a real pirate tendency, and what Hannibal talked about during Impel Down when it comes to how fearful people are of pirates. Of course, Caribou went for a good old-fashioned pirate battle of ship to ship, only underwater, and he was the one to make it onto the Thousand Sunny, which was an ultimate ultimate fail. But one thing I realized in that moment is Caribou really wanted recognition off of beating Straw Hat Pirates. This is important when we witness him and Blackbeard discussing things in the future. Also, I can't forget to mention how puzzled Caribou was with Luffy trying to make the Kraken a pet. He views Luffy as not a smart individual, as it's more logical to flee for their lives, which technically he's right, as he would learn the Straw Hat Pirates are not your typical crew. He even helps the monster trio fight the Kraken by coating them in a bubble, which angers Usopp, but he explains your idiot captain's gonna fight anyways, better to do it outside the ship, in which Usopp actually agrees, and Usopp is a very logical character as well, so definitely thought that was pretty cool and funny. Another moment that made Caribou look good is when he was of course hiding in the Thousand Sunny, and Frankie said who cares, he's not that strong. Later on, Frankie would actually find him and then of course tie him into a crate, which while also realizing that Caribou was a Logia and downplaying his power earlier. So Caribou is a smart individual. He's humble enough to downplay his power so his enemies don't think he's that strong. But of course, he keeps on getting in dumb situations, as Frankie, of course, called out. Now, don't worry, I'm not going to bore you guys with Caribou lore for too long, so let's just get this over with. Caribou overheard Robin and King Neptune speaking about Shirahoshi being an ancient weapon of Poseidon. He already planned to kidnap her and sell her, of course, so this was extra motivation for him to take Shirahoshi and leave Fishman Island. And obviously, the monster trio stopped him and then beat him up again to take the treasure he stole as well. But also, this told me that Caribou is one of the few people in the One Piece world who know how dangerous Shirahoshi is, which automatically makes him a huge chess piece in the One Piece battle for Joy Boy's treasure. Caribou is a character that Oda has been highlighting for so long that Oda actually gave him a cover story that the anime only fans have not seen. Yes, Caribou's cover story, which was interesting because Oda was hinting on how important the character was by giving him this much spotlight for an anime onlys. I'll do a quick recap. Caribou gets bodied by Jinbei for trying to steal mermaids on Fishman Island, and then gets captured as well, something he knows also well earlier with the Straw Hats and currently with the Blackbeard Pirates. Jinbei then of course drops him off at a marine base where Caribou's 190 million bounty brother fights to save Caribou, where Caribou ditches him and his crew and escapes, where he meets this old lady who thinks he's her grandson, Garaboo. I know, hang with me for a little bit here, guys. It's gonna be over soon. He ends up running away from the Pirate Scotch, who of course we all know the Pirate Scotch and X-Drake had a beef pre-time skip, and the Pirate Scotch attacked his fake grandma. After this, he reunites with his brother, who feels no type of way with Caribou because of their grandmother saying never to fight, even though Caribou snaked him. And Caribou of course beats the Pirate Scotch with his Logia ability. Don't forget, he's actually pretty strong. And then he gets destroyed by former Rear Admiral, Worst Generation Captain, and of course Flying Six member on the Beast Pirates, who is still a Marine leader of Sword, X-Drake, which of course brings Caribou back into the main plot line, aka the Wano arc. And for those of you who were invested into Caribou's cover story, which I don't know why, the grandma always knew that Caribou wasn't her grandson. Okay, enough of that, let's speed this up. During the Wano arc, Caribou of course is in the prison of Udon with of course Luffy, and of course tries to team up with Luffy, but of course Luffy says get out of here, go team up with Kid. And interesting here is Luffy calls Caribou by his actual name and not by a nickname. I feel like Oda did this on purpose. Caribou then goes on to talk shit about Kid, taking L's, and gets corrected by Kid, and boy was he scared when Kid pulled up. This shows how slimy Caribou is and how Oda is portraying him for, of course, us to never rate him, but also stay 10 toes with him because he could cause big problems in the future. He even bullshitted to Luffy how much he changed, and Luffy kind of believed it, and he said he would take him home, in which Caribou was surprised and said it was too easy. Now, I feel like Oda did this on purpose because the comedic factor of this is Luffy is not going to take him home. He's going to take him through the hardship of trying to get the One Piece. In my opinion, to make Caribou presence in the final word that much bigger and to keep us guessing what side he will truly end up on, because he did spend a lot of time on the Straw Hat Pirates, coincidentally. And Buggy, I feel like I get this Buggy feeling from Caribou, but I trust Buggy more for some reason. I just can't trust Caribou, and him being a fanboy of Blackbeard, yeah, I think I was right. Okay, I gotta give credit where credit's due though, because I feel like I'm talking too much shit about Caribou. He earned his right of being a big player in the final saga because he cut all communication to the prison of Udon by hiding all the transponder snails, and he gave Luffy food for him to go fight Kaido one more time at the end of Wano arc. Yes, yeah, he was only thinking of himself, but he was still betting on Luffy, and that's right there is something I've started to notice. It's funny because he had an initial role of joining fake Luffy But because of everything that happened throughout the story, from all the way from Fishman Island to Wano, he was actually helping the real Luffy. Who would have thought? Now, of course, after Wano, Caribou overheard that Pluton was in Wano, and now he knows where 2 ancient weapon is. Oda, why do you keep on giving this dude such valuable information? He even says a certain someone would definitely want to know about this, and we know Caribou is not talking about Imu and the Gorosei because he was not happy when Luffy was gonna head to Meridra, of course, to save Vivi. Another thing Caribou overheard was Luffy's dream that he shared with Roger, and I wonder if Oda will highlight this or ignore it. I'm not too sure. We also got the moment of Zoro saying thank you to Caribou in the beginning of Egghead Island for helping Luffy, in which Caribou calls him a jerk. Now that I'm thinking about it, what will the Straw Hats' reaction be when they see him with Teach and when the 2 Yonko crews finally clash? It's going to be a funny reaction, honestly. And finally, the last thing I want to say about this character, I think I've never talked about a side character this much. It just shows how Oda is torturing me by giving this guy so much valuable information. Caribou begs Katarina Devon and Von Agra for him to join, explaining how big of a Blackbeard fan he was, motivated him to go out to sea and be a pirate, which would make sense since Caribou is a post-timeskip supernova and Blackbeard rise happened during the timeskip. Also, they both share the dirty tactics, pirate strategies that it's typical of pirates, but Blackbeard is just a little bit more stronger and more experienced in the pirate game. Caribou even uses his tactic by telling Von Agra that if you kill me, Blackbeard will have your head. So Von Agra asks why, because Von Agra is just thinking, why would Blackbeard take and kill me? Like, what the hell? I'm an OG Blackbeard pirate. And of course, Caribou explains that he has valuable information that he can tell Blackbeard. That's right, the whereabouts of 2 ancient weapons. So Caribou was cooking here, I gotta admit. Now, to talk about a character that I feel like is much more highlighted and loved in the fanbase, Shanks instead of Caribou. Shanks has been connected to Blackbeard since, of course, he's been a kid. Like when, of course, Buggy told him Blackbeard never sleeps, and Shanks replied he gets to live twice as much, that's cool. And Buggy said, nah, it just means he's a monster. During the Roger Pirates vs. the Whitebeard Pirates arc of fighting, that was pretty cool to see. Also, when of course he went to Whitebeard and told him to stop Ace from going after Blackbeard, and how Blackbeard scarred him while he was of course defending himself, and predicted Blackbeard even taking Whitebeard's spot. And then of course we have the iconic Marineford moment of both their crews lined up and Blackbeard dodging the fade, saying he's not ready even though he like recently just got Whitebeard's Delver ability, which really hyped up Shanks. And then of course there's Shanks waiting for Blackbeard on the outskirts of Wano. And then before his fight with Kid, he was trying to get info on Blackbeard, where of course Blackbeard was located. Oda's pretty much letting us know that these two are about to clash, even having Pirate Island Beehive and Shanks' ship in 2 panels right next to each other reacting to Vegapunk's message while Shanks is getting drunk. Now, one big thing I noticed is that Shanks' haki destroyed Kid, who's arguably stronger than Law. So is Oda trying to hint at us that Blackbeard is still not ready for the smoke and there's 1 equalizer left in the equation? Yeah, that's right. I always thought that Blackbeard needed 1 more Delver ability to actually take on Shanks, because Shanks' haki was just too much. But now that I'm thinking about it, what if he had an ancient weapon? Yes, the ancient weapons of course sunk the original world from the Void Century into the depths of the ocean, and I believe Blackbeard will obtain the ancient weapon Pluton and have it during this fight versus Shanks, and might even be the reason on how he beats Shanks. Blackbeard is a true pirate through and through, so expect dirty tactics that Shanks has to respect. Him also being a pirate, remember the speech he made during chapter 1 telling the bandits that pirates don't fight fair, or even Luffy telling Katakuri on how this is a pirate fight and pretty much saying I don't care about the unfairness of it. All I'm saying is Blackbeard is a serious threat for both Imu and Luffy, and not a lot of people are talking about it. Though I do think Luffy will obtain an ancient weapon in Poseidon, and Imu will have ancient weapon Uranus with of course the help of Mother Flame. That's another topic for another day, and if you want to know why this ancient battle is still going on, click on this video, this Joy Boy video, to see the strongest haki in the One Piece story.